Claire had always known her grandfather as a distant man, formal, quiet, and borderline cold. He never raised his voice, but also never raised a toast on birthdays or showed up to school events. Even so, when he passed away, Claire felt the weight of his absence more than she expected. She sat in the back row during the funeral, dressed in black, her hands clenched around the handle of her purse. Her parents stood at the front, stoic, as if nothing could ever shake them. But Claire couldn't stop the question echoing in her head. Why do I feel like something about this moment isn't what it seems? The answer came 2 weeks later in the form of a letter. A lawyer contacted Claire, requesting her presence at the reading of the will. She assumed it was routine, maybe a small inheritance, a family heirloom, nothing that would shift her world. But she was wrong. As the lawyer read the official portions of the will, Claire zoned out. Her name wasn't mentioned alongside the others. Until the end. That's when the man paused and pulled out a handwritten envelope. This, he said carefully, was left specifically for Claire, and he requested that it be read privately. Alone in the quiet office, Claire opened the letter with trembling hands. Her grandfather's handwriting was unmistakable, sharp, deliberate. Claire, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it's time you knew the truth. The man you call Dad is not your biological father. Your mother, she made a choice to protect you, and I respected that for a time. But I couldn't die without giving you the choice to know who you really are. Claire stopped breathing. Her heart pounded in her ears. The letter went on to name someone she never expected. A woman. A name spoken only in whispers growing up. Someone the family had painted as selfish and disloyal. Her real mother. Claire sat in her car for nearly an hour after leaving the lawyer's office. The envelope rested on her lap. The words etched into her memory. Her real mother was not only alive, but someone she had grown up fearing. The woman's name echoed through family fights and stories meant to warn, not inspire. She drove home slowly, her hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. Inside, her parents were in the living room. Her father read the newspaper. Her mother folded laundry. Everything looked so normal, so undisturbed by the secret that had just shattered Claire's sense of identity. She didn't say anything that night. She barely slept. The next morning, she called in sick to work and pulled out every old photo album she could find. She searched for signs, for anything that might now look different. Every smile her father gave her suddenly looked like a mask. Every embrace felt rehearsed. 3 days passed before she gathered the courage to ask her mother. They were in the kitchen when Claire laid the letter on the table. Her mother went pale. She didn't ask how Claire got it. She didn't even try to deny it. He made me promise, her mother whispered. Your father, the one who raised you, didn't know. I kept the truth buried because I thought it was best. I thought I was protecting everyone. Claire felt her legs weaken. She sat down staring at her mother like she was a stranger. Who is she? Why did you hide her from me? Her mother hesitated. Her name is Marianne. She was my closest friend once. But she made choices I couldn't accept. She left everything behind, including you. That's not what the letter says, Claire replied. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. But she said nothing. Claire stood up slowly. I need to know who she is. I need to hear it from her. And with that, the search began. Claire spent the next several days digging through every resource she could find. Old directories, social media profiles, archived newspaper clippings. Her mother had offered no help beyond the name, Marianne. No last name. No town, just a ghost of a past buried under resentment. She contacted the lawyer again, hoping he might have something more. He hesitated but agreed to meet. There's not much I can give you, he said cautiously. But your grandfather did include one other thing, a photograph. Claire held the old photo with shaking fingers. A woman, young and radiant, stood beside her grandfather. Her smile was genuine, her hand resting protectively on a baby wrapped in a hospital blanket. On the back, someone had written, Marianne and Claire, 1995. Seeing the name in writing made everything feel more real. She was holding proof, not just words. That woman had held her, loved her once. Whatever happened after, it hadn't always been distance. She stared at Marianne's face, memorizing every detail. It was in the shape of her jaw, the way her eyes curved when she smiled. Claire had seen those features before, in the mirror. With a sense of urgency, Claire reached out to an old friend who worked in public records. Within days, she had a lead. A woman named Marianne Lacerda had registered a business in a small town 3 hours away, a bookstore. Claire packed a bag and drove. The town was quiet and charming, the kind of place where everyone knew each other by name. Her heart pounded as she stood outside the shop, hands sweaty, the photo in her pocket. She pushed the door open. A soft chime rang out. Books lined every wall. And behind the counter, arranging a shelf of poetry, was a woman whose profile mirrored Claire's own. Their eyes met. The woman froze. Marianne? Claire asked. The woman didn't answer, but her eyes filled with tears. And with that, the search began. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt thick, as if time itself had slowed down. Marianne slowly stepped around the counter, her gaze locked on Claire, as if seeing a ghost from a past she had forced herself to forget. Claire pulled the photo from her pocket and held it up. "Is this you?" Her voice trembled. "Is this me?" Marianne nodded, her lips pressed into a thin, shaking line. "Yes," she whispered. "That was us, a long time ago." Claire took a breath, unsure of what to feel. "Why did you leave? Why did no one ever tell me you existed?" Marianne looked down, folding her hands in front of her. "Because I wasn't allowed to stay. Your grandfather said I wasn't fit to raise you, that I was a disgrace to the family. Your mother agreed. They gave me no choice." The words hit Claire like wind through broken glass. "You didn't walk away." Marianne's eyes filled again. "I fought. I wrote letters they never gave you. I drove past your school once just to see you from a distance, but they threatened to destroy me if I didn't stay away." Claire turned away, pacing the quiet bookstore aisle. Her mind was spinning. Lies, truths, and shadows swirled together. Why now? Why did he leave me that letter? Marianne shook her head slowly. Maybe guilt finally caught up with him, or maybe he wanted to control how the truth came out. Even in death, Claire leaned against a shelf, eyes glassy. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Marianne stepped closer. "You don't have to believe anything yet. Just sit with it, and let me tell you what they never let me say." Claire sat at a small table near the back of the bookstore while Marianne made 2 cups of tea. The space was quiet, filled with the scent of pages and time. Claire stared at the bookshelves, trying to imagine the life that had unfolded here. A life she had been kept away from. Marianne returned and placed a cup in front of her. "I was young, Claire. Too young, maybe. But I loved you, more than anything. When I found out I was pregnant, I told your grandfather. He was furious." She paused, watching Claire for any sign of reaction. Claire remained still. "I wasn't married. I didn't follow the family's expectations. They wanted silence, image, legacy, and I broke all of that. So they erased me. Your mother didn't fight them. She was scared too." Claire gripped her mug tightly. "But you let them win. You let them take me." Marianne's voice softened. "They told me they'd take me to court, ruin my name, and make sure I never saw you again. I had no money, no power, and no one to fight with me. I didn't sign anything willingly. They forged signatures, threatened me, and I was barely 20. Daritar looked away. Her heart was torn between anger and sorrow. "Why didn't you come back later?" "I tried, but every time I reached out, they blocked me. Letters returned, calls ignored. Then I heard you were calling someone else Mom. That broke me." The silence between them was long and heavy. Claire finally whispered, "I'm not here for revenge. I just wanted to know what was true." Marianne nodded slowly. "Then stay. Let's rebuild what they took from us, one truth at a time." Claire stayed in the town for 3 days. She rented a small room above a cafe and spent her afternoons in the bookstore with Marianne. At first, their conversations were cautious, filled with pauses and quiet glances, but slowly, the wall between them began to crack. Marianne told stories about Claire's infancy, the way she used to sleep with one hand curled around her mother's thumb, the songs she hummed while feeding her, the panic the night Claire had a fever, and Marianne walked 4 miles to find a doctor. Claire listened, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with tears. These were pieces of her life she never knew existed, memories that were meant to be hers, stolen before she could hold them. They laughed too. Marianne had a dry wit, and Claire found herself surprised by how much they had in common. The same taste in music, the same way they both got overly excited in bookstores, even the same habit of tapping their fingers while reading. On the 3rd evening, Claire asked, "Do you ever regret not fighting harder?" Marianne was quiet for a long time. "Every single day, but regret doesn't change the past. It only reminds me what I lost." Claire nodded. "And what about now? What do we do with all this?" Marianne looked at her with tenderness. "Now we move forward, carefully, honestly. You don't owe me anything, Claire, but I want to be in your life, in whatever way you'll let me." Claire took her hand. "I came looking for the truth, and I found more than that. I found you." They sat in silence, holding each other's presence with care. A bond long buried now had a chance to grow, not as mother and daughter bound by obligation, but as 2 women choosing to reconnect. Returning home was harder than Claire expected. As the bus pulled into the city, she felt the familiar weight settle on her shoulders. Her mother was waiting at the house, standing in the doorway, as if she had been there the entire time. They didn't speak right away. Claire placed her bag down and sat at the kitchen table. Her mother joined her, hands clasped tightly. There was no anger in the room, only the fragile silence of truths exposed. "You saw her," her mother said. Claire nodded. "I did. She told me everything." Her mother looked away, her eyes filling with tears. "I was afraid she would ruin you, that she would take you from me. I let fear decide for you." Claire listened without interruption. "She never stopped loving me. She never stopped trying." "I know," her mother whispered, "but your grandfather wouldn't allow it, and I didn't fight him. I let his judgment become mine." Claire leaned forward, her voice steady. "You raised me. You were there. But I needed the truth. And now that I have it, I need space to decide what that means. Her mother nodded slowly. Whatever you need, Claire. Just don't shut me out completely. Claire stood and kissed her on the forehead. I'm not shutting you out. I'm learning how to let someone else in, too. That night, Claire sat in her room with both photographs in her hands, one with the woman who raised her, and one with the woman who brought her into the world. For the first time, she didn't feel torn between them. She felt whole. Claire began writing, not with the intention of publishing anything, but to organize her thoughts. She started with a letter to Marianne, then one to her mother, each filled with raw honesty, questions, and reflections. Writing helped her feel in control of her own narrative. She mailed the first letter to Marianne and waited. A few days later, a package arrived. Inside was a carefully written response, along with a small box. Inside the box were mementos, a tiny pair of baby shoes, a locket with a picture of baby Claire, and a pressed flower from a hospital bouquet. Claire cried when she held them. These were proof of love, proof that she had never truly been abandoned. Marianne's letter was gentle, full of stories and quiet wishes she'd carried for years. They began exchanging letters weekly. It was a way of building trust. Little by little, Claire didn't tell many people about it. It felt sacred, a quiet thread weaving two lives together after so long apart. One afternoon, her mother found a letter on the kitchen counter. She didn't open it. Instead, she knocked gently on Claire's door. "You're writing to her," she said. Claire nodded. "It helps." Her mother sighed. "I don't like it, but I understand." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Claire handed her another letter. "This one's for you." Her mother opened it hours later, alone in her room. It wasn't angry. It wasn't full of blame. It was simply honest. A daughter reaching out to heal both sides of a fractured history. As the weeks passed, Claire began to see love in all its complicated forms. Not the kind of love told in stories with clear heroes and villains, but something more tangled and human. Love, she learned, could be flawed and still be real. She visited Marianne again. This time they didn't talk about the past. They walked through the town, sat in a small cafe and shared quiet moments. It felt less like a reunion and more like a beginning. Back home, her relationship with her mother grew cautious but warmer. They cooked dinner together more often. Her mother asked about Claire's writing and sometimes about Marianne. Not with resentment but with curiosity. One evening Claire showed her the locket. Her mother stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "I remember that day. I was there when they took the picture. I thought she'd never let you go." Claire didn't reply. She didn't need to. Sometimes silence carried the words that hurt too much to speak. She began keeping a journal, separate from the letters, a place just for herself. In it, she wrote about identity, about the pain of being caught between truths, about how forgiveness was not a moment, but a slow unfolding. At night, she'd lie awake wondering what her life might have been if she'd grown up with Marianne. But she didn't dwell on it for long. The past was unchangeable. What mattered now was what she chose to do with the pieces it left behind. She told Marianne that she wanted her in her life, but also needed space. Marianne understood. Love isn't measured by how close we stay. It's in whether we choose to stay connected, even from afar. Claire smiled. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel torn between two women. She felt connected to both, and that in itself was healing. Spring arrived gently. The air warmed, the trees bloomed, and life began to move with a new softness. Claire walked through a park one morning, the sun touching her skin like a quiet blessing. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Marianne. Just a simple sentence. "Thinking of you today," she replied with a heart. No explanation needed. They had learned to communicate without filling every space with words. Some connections didn't require constant talking to remain alive. Back at home, Claire found her mother on the porch knitting a scarf she'd been working on for weeks. They sat together in silence, the kind of silence that was once tense but had become a shared comfort. Claire pulled out her journal and read a passage she'd written the night before. Healing isn't loud. It's not always visible. Sometimes, it's a quiet shift in how you look at someone, or how you let yourself be looked at. Her mother reached over and gently took her hand. No apology, no speech, just presence. And it was enough. That weekend, Claire returned to the bookstore with a small box. Inside were printed copies of her letters bound together. She handed it to Marianne. "It's not a book," she said. "It's a beginning." Marianne smiled, tears brimming in her eyes. She didn't open it right away. She simply held it to her chest. As Claire left the shop, she felt lighter, not because everything had been fixed, but because nothing was hidden anymore. The truth had brought pain, but also clarity, and in that clarity, she found peace. That night, Claire stood by her window, the moon casting a soft glow over her desk. She no longer wondered who she was. She knew she was a daughter of two stories, and both had a place in her heart. For the first time, she slept soundly, knowing she belonged to herself. If this story moved you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about identity, truth, and healing.